Hello. I think we can start. So a warm welcome to everybody. I'm Stefano Perucchi. I'm partner at Keller Ascarar, which is the second largest firm in Switzerland, and I'm also executive board member of Swiss LegalTech Association. Together with Marco Farina, I'm also co-heading this Ticino chapter of the Swiss LegalTech Association. And it's really a pleasure for me today to welcome you all at our first online event called How I Can Drive Productivity. Let me first spend a couple of words about Swiss LegalTech Association. Swiss LegalTech Association is a non-profit association which offers a framework for lawyers, entrepreneurs, investors, academics, and professionals to create value together. We support the legal industry by providing a better understanding of the legal technology markets, and we foster the development of Switzerland as a hub for legal technology. This first event is a part of a series called Swiss LegalTech Talks 2022, organized in collaboration with Logol. Logol is a Swiss provider of cutting-edge technology solutions. We are very proud to have Logol on board. Logol is also a corporate member of the Swiss LegalTech Association. Why a series of events facing hot topics like artificial intelligence, blockchain, and automation? There is no doubt that the digital transformation in the professional legal sector will redefine the business scenario, and we wanted to work closely with Logol to face this challenge, create value, and together gain the benefits of new technological solutions by delivering a free series of online events about new technologies applied to legal and professional sectors. Today, we will deep dive into the first topic, artificial intelligence, together with Alessandro Maserati from Logol, Zaibaa Thingna, and Peter Braun, both from Dentons. Let me spend a couple of words about our speakers. So let's start with Zaibaa. So Zaibaa collaborates with lawyers and clients in developing innovative and efficient ways of delivering legal advice. She has a wide experience in process and documents automation, developing client products and leveraging technology to advantage internal and external efficiencies. She helps lawyers understand and deploy artificial intelligence solution in their matters, and has recently contributed to a book that aims to bring lawyers closer to technology. She is a qualified lawyer and has advised several large corporations in cross-border litigation and arbitration proceedings and in M&A transactions. She holds an LLM degree in business law from the London School of Economics and Political Science, and she has worked at several reputable international law firms before joining Dentons. So welcome, Zaibaa. We are very happy that you are with us today. Peter Braun, which is partner and co-head of European Public Procurement Practice at Dentons. Welcome, Peter. Peter is a partner of Dentons, which is the world's largest law firm and specializes in national and international matters of government contracts, privatization, public-private partnerships, and compliance. He is the co-head of Dentons' European Public Procurement Practice. Peter regularly advises public sector authority in structuring complex public procurement procedure, predominantly in the area of health and IT. In the last 15 years, he has advised private sector clients in relation to infrastructure projects in Africa, Latin America, Europe, and Asia. Clients retain Peter for assisting in compliance matters in relation to government contracts. According to Chambers Europe, Peter's practice is best known for advising clients in connection with possible national or international debarments. He has advised clients on investigating bribery, fraud, collusion, or anti-competitive behavior, and the subsequent implementation of adequate compliance management system. Peter graduated from Kiel University in Germany. He holds a PhD from Nottingham University, UK, and a LLM in business law from the University of Wales. He is also a qualified attorney in German. So Peter, welcome today to this event. Let me spend a couple of words also to our moderator, Alessandro Maserati, which is head of artificial intelligence at Logol. Welcome, Alessandro. Alessandro is a mathematician, strategic consultant, innovator. He deals with cutting-edge technology, collaborating with leading university institute and R&D department of top-tier company. After having studied pure mathematics, logic to be precise, at the Scuola Normale of Pisa, and an experience in strategic consulting at Boston Consulting Group, he worked on technological and business innovation, focusing on the evolution of artificial intelligence. In the field of artificial intelligence, he has specialized in the design of new solutions using existing models and in the care of business integration processes with a special focus on change management impact. Welcome Alessandro as well. We are very happy that you are here with us. So let me remind you briefly what is the agenda of today. After this brief introduction by myself, we will have a brief introduction to the topic by Alessandro. Then we will have the presentation Artificial Intelligence for Law by Zaibaa, and then a discussion with Zaibaa and Peter, moderated by Alessandro. Sorry, the presentation about Artificial Intelligence for Law will be together by Zaibaa and Peter. And then at the end, we will have the chance to have a Q&A session. Maybe before terminating this introduction, I wanted to remind you that this event is a part of a series of events organized by the Swiss LegalTech Association, Ticino chapter in collaboration with Logol. So save the date. Next event will be on May 11, and we will talk about blockchain, legal implication, opportunity, and risk. And then there is another event scheduled on September 21st, which is about benefits of automation for professional firms. You will find all the information about future events on the website of the Swiss LegalTech Association, where you can register also for our monthly newsletter. And of course, you can follow the channel of Swiss LegalTech Association on LinkedIn, and there you will find not only these events organized by Ticino chapter, but all other events also about the association. So let's deep into the topic, and I will. The floor is yours, Alessandro. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefano. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to introduce this very interesting topic. In recent year, we have often heard about AI. Many industries have been completely disrupted by this technology, and many will be disrupted in coming years. So it's very important to know more about this topic. Some companies like Google or Amazon are known to have drastically reduced their operating cost, and others are known to completely change the way in which they acquire new customers. So both you are interested in internal cost, or how to find new client, or how to manage your internal operation, AI is a technology that you really need to know. Sometimes also just the idea of using AI can be disruptive. Just think about the promise of autonomous driving that allow a minor company like Tesla. At least a few years ago, it was a minor company and that overtake industry giants like General Motors in just few years. So AI is a technology that can completely disrupt the sector in really few years. So it's very important to know how it works. And in meanwhile, in last years, AI also entered in our daily life. For example, you can think that today is totally normal. Ask to Alexa to play a song, or ask to Siri to call a friend. Today, natural voice interaction is quite normal, but it was completely impossible just 10 years ago, something like that. And also virtual background for video call that everybody do every day were impossible a few years ago, and today are quite normal. So you can see that many different aspects or of our life completely change thanks to AI, and that's impact both big companies and single person around the world. And so if there is something so powerful and so easy to use, it's natural to try and understand how can we leverage it on our daily work, because of course the potential is quite huge, and also the threat, if we lost the opportunity to leverage the potential, could be very, very huge. So this is an important topic. And today we'll try to understand something more about this topic with the help of Zaibaa and Peter. And we will ask them to explain us how can we use AI in the legal sector, and how a lawyer can leverage this kind of technology to improve his daily work. So please, Zaibaa and Peter, let's go with the presentation, and after we will discuss together how the lawyer can use this technology.
Thanks, Alessandro. Thanks, Stefano, for the introduction. And before before we look into how AI and can be a driver in productivity in legal work, let's take maybe just a step back and look at what it is that lawyers actually do. So it's not common. Lawyers in different areas of work obviously have different styles of working. They have different deliverables, but sorry, can you see my screen?
We could a minute ago.
Apologies. So yes, of course, while lawyers have different styles of working, and even an individual lawyer every day does different kind of work, I think one thing that lawyers have in common is that they spend a lot of time reading. They are spending hours buried in books, hours in front of a computer screen, trying to take lots of information, process a lot of information, so that they can give their clients sound, strong legal advice. In the legal world, this information has several names. It could be laws, regulations, any sort of document sent over by the client. It could be case law. It could be academic papers. But in the tech world, all of this translates into one word, and that is data. And what we would like to do is invite you in the next couple of minutes to look at your legal work and look at your everyday legal tasks from data-driven lenses, because once we establish that the legal practice and law is data-centric and data-driven, it's much easier then to justify the use of technology in such work, and also to identify where this technology would give you maximum value. So let's start with two examples. Let's start with the example of Maria, a commercial lawyer who has been given the task by her client to terminate 120 licensing agreements. What would Maria do? She would start off by reviewing each and every license agreement. She would find the relevant termination clauses within those agreements. She would then maybe conduct a little bit of legal research to check where, if any other external laws and regulations are applicable. And then based on this research and reading, she would then create termination notices. Now, while this is a process in legal terms and in the legal world, let's look at it from a data flow perspective. What Maria has to begin with is a data set. So that's 120 license agreements. And what she is doing then is reading them and picking out, extracting relevant pieces of information to then create legal reasoning around it, which here in this case is the algorithm, to make an output data. So that is her legal conclusions. Based on these conclusions, she would then draft the 120 the termination notices, which in this case would be the new data set. Let's look maybe at another example from another area of law. Let's see Stefan, an IP arbitration lawyer. He is contacted by his client, who has been served with a request for arbitration and a statement of claim, where his competitor has alleged some sorts of IP infringements. What would Stefan do? Stefan would, of course, read the documents that are sent over by the competitor, along with the evidence that the competitor has submitted to build his case. He would then have to reach out to his client, find out his client's side of the case, ask him for more documentation. He would have to conduct a thorough investigation procedure, then create and establish a timeline of facts and events. You would then also have to conduct research a little bit on the laws applicable for this particular matter. So you would look at IP laws, arbitration laws, contract laws, also maybe case law, because in arbitration, that would be an important source of law. And based on this whole process, he would then draft the statement of defense. This process can also be seen from a data flow perspective. This is highly simplified, but what he is doing in a nutshell is reviewing the data. So the data set that he has received all the information from his own client as well as the claimant. He's conducting a reasoning around it. He's checking the laws that are applicable, having some sort of data analysis, and then creating the statement of defense. So this is the new data set. Now, while these are just two examples of simplified legal processes, but I think it's very representative of most legal work. If you look at your work and kind of break it down into phases, and then try and give it this data flow angle, you will be able to quickly see which parts of your process are highly data driven. And then it's a good place to start and think about where technology can be applied within that process. Now, once we accept that, yes, we need technology to be more efficient in our work, I think the next question that we see a lot from our lawyers, and we see it people at conferences as well, is someone asks, okay, but as a lawyer, how much technology do I need to understand? And really, where do I start? And to this, I would say it's easier to answer the second question first. We don't expect lawyers to understand how AI algorithms work. There are software engineers for that. But I think where lawyers play a very important role is that they need to understand and be very clear on the problem that they are trying to solve. So they need to know what exactly they're trying to achieve by using a technology. And then it's also important for them to understand not only the benefits of using the technology, but also the risks and liabilities or limitations of that technology associated with it. And to answer where should I start, of course, this depends very much on your workflow and your work processes. But I would like to today just give you a brief overview of 5 of the most important use cases of AI in legal work. So it gives you a sense of where AI or what AI technology is capable of doing in a law firm. So let's start with legal research. Anyone who's worked as a lawyer can tell you and will have their own stories about how it's taken them hours to find the relevant information they need because they've used the wrong keyword search, or they have never found the correct syntax, so it took them hours to find the correct search syntax. And this is where AI plays a very important role, because what it allows now for is a concept and a context-based search. So what does it mean, a concept-based search? So now it's not so important to find the correct word, but it's just because what AI does is also finds information associated with the meaning of that word. So let's put this in an example. Like if I am looking for a breach of contract, case law on a breach of contract, it's not now with these advanced search tools, they wouldn't just give me results where the term breach is used, but it would also give me results for, say, where infringement of contract or violation of a contract is used. And within these tools, they also allow a context-based search, which basically means that you can set predefined parameters to make your search more targeted. So let's say if I want to set the circumstances of my case, I can put that within the system, so it pulls out information that are relevant to my circumstances. Another important use case would be in the case of contract review. There are several AI tools, excellent AI tools, that cater specifically to the legal market. So what this does is that these tools are trained to identify legal documents and identify clauses. So if you have a host of contracts, you put it on in there into the platform. And what this tool does is it analyzes the contracts. It's able to quickly identify what types of contracts are in your data set. It's able to also highlight what types of clauses are in your data set, cluster clauses together, and also highlight anomalies. So if something is starkly different from the regular norm in your contract, it immediately highlights that, which means that you can then prioritize your reviews. The next example is in e-discovery. This is something that Peter will get into. He will give you first-hand experience of his work in e-discovery. But just in a nutshell, e-discovery is a tool that allows you to review electronic data. So think about emails, chat messages, social media posts. Today, with most of the data being stored electronically, and there's been a complete data explosion because of this electronic storage, it's no longer feasible or possible to print out every individual email and have a manual review. So these e-discovery tools are able to analyze all the electronic information that you put in. It can search for the information that you find relevant, and can also give you visual understanding of communication flows, which in an investigation or a litigation setting becomes very important. Another example is in the field of data extraction. In this case, think of databases. There are many AI tools that help you identify key elements of contracts, and so that you can populate your databases. One example would be in the case of, let's say, a shopping mall owner. He is probably dealing with hundreds of lease agreements for each and every individual shop within his shopping mall. To check when his contracts are expiring, what the lease is on every contract, he doesn't want to go back every time to a paper contract. So what he would do is then run all these contracts into this data extraction tool, which pulls out these key bits of information, which he can then integrate into his systems of records. So let's take the example of an expiry date. So he can have this expiry date automatically recognized, put into his systems, and then create reminders around those expiry dates, so he's sure to start the renewal process in time. And the last example that I would like to mention here is in the case of decision trees and prediction. I read a very interesting use case by one of the leading UK law firms, where they brought together a group of statisticians and litigators to analyze all litigation cases that they had. Based on this information, they created a decision tree prediction model where they could use that model in similar current or future cases with similar circumstances and predict what the likely outcome could be. One big success story that they found with this prediction tool is that they had one of their clients give up a €100 million settlement because, based on the decision of this tool, the client saw that in 86% of the cases, they would surpass this particular figure. And now, just to make these examples or these use cases a little more concrete, let's go back to Stefan and Maria and see how they could have used AI tools to make their process quicker, faster, and better. So Maria, when she had to review 120 license agreements, and she probably did it manually, what she could have done is taken all of those, ran it through a contract review software, which would then highlight all the termination clauses for her into a tabular format. So she would only see the information that was relevant to her. And it could also cluster similar information together. So she would know right at the beginning how many different types of termination notices she would have to draft to address the needs of each and every contract. Of course, for whether to check whether there are additional tools, she could use legal research tools, which would then help her identify the relevant laws and regulations to her case, and also to check whether or not there are any other cases in this similar to her case, which judges have decided on in the past. And finally, because she's going to create such a large volume of termination notices, she could also offer to her client that she could create them, she could run them through a data extraction tool, which could then put them into any sort of machine-readable format, which the clients could then integrate into their official record-keeping systems. Let's look at Stefan. What he could have done in this case is, instead of manually reviewing all the data, evidence that was submitted by the claimant, then ask the client for further evidence, rely that the client has given him all the documents that are relevant to that case, he could just ask the client to run an e-discovery tool through his systems. This way, Stefan could very quickly identify the important bits of the communication, the licenses, any sort of back and forth that has taken place relating to the IP infringements in one go. And based on that, he would be able to create the facts and events of his case. He could also use the legal research tools that would help him identify case law and which sort of laws are relevant for this particular matter at hand. And now we hear from Peter after Stefan and Maria, and how Peter has used e-discovery in his compliance investigations.
Thanks, Zaibaa. I'm in good company with Stefan and Maria. That's great. So how do we apply AI software in investigations? So we have to take a step back and say, look, what are investigations all about? Investigations are fundamentally about establishing what happened and why it happened. And conventionally, this has involved searching for and manually reviewing data. Zaibaa was referring to it, Alessandro as well. But I'm an old man, you see, and I like to tell you a story from my past. So let me take you back to the year 2011, when a client asked us to look into a corruption case in Europe. The client was down-rated, and the prosecutors took away all the project-related files. We had to go to the prosecutors and for our defense files and start copying, paper copying that day, the entire project file. So we ended up with literally 3 rooms in our law firm then, full with cabinets of files, paper files, of documents. Of course, Zaibaa and her team was probably still at school then. So we had to do this manually to look in the needle, for the needle in the haystack, really. So we employed 3 forensic investigators, 2 lawyers, several trainees and research assistants, and it literally took us weeks to identify relevant needles. Imagine how much time we had then in the old days. Fast forward to 2016, a relatively small case of fraud in West Africa. And again, we received data from the client. And data in that days were basically PDFs and scans in the format of JPEG, which you know probably from your pictures. So we asked several legal operators then in Germany to assist whether they could basically extract all the data from those files automatically to search those documents electronically. And they were not able in 2016 to do that on a quality level that would satisfy the client needs. So again, in 2016, we had to manually search the documents, although the market had already moved slightly onward. And if we contrast this to the situation of our investigation practice today, it is just an incredible change. Yeah. So these days, we're able to give clients a choice of AI products available to search not only email folders, as Zaibaa just mentioned, but entire laptops, chats, the data on mobile devices, of course, which play an increasing role in internal communications at our clients. All those devices contain data, as Zaibaa would say, and all of the data is susceptible to our analysis. This provides us with valuable cross-references. So you can link an email exchange, which you can't really figure out why it has happened, to a voicemail on a cell phone, which is just incredible in terms of the investigatory power you just simply have. So for investigations, AI software often includes components both of unsupervised and supervised machine learning to facilitate document review. So what do I mean? by that? Unsupervised machine learning is where an algorithm uses pattern recognition to cluster similar data sets together. And Zaibaa was already referring to that. So without additional input from a human, that's the first step taken in an investigation by an AI software. As a result of that, a lawyer can review a smaller number of documents in the cluster. So the haystack has been reduced, the number of documents have been reduced simply by eliminating, for example, duplicates or similar documents. And then in the second step, we have supervised machine learning capabilities that involve someone teaching the algorithm how to identify certain data. And so the underlying algorithm in an investigation, for example, can be told this document is relevant to my investigation. Go out and find a similar document with similar parameters in the larger pool of documents. So that is, again, helping us, assisting us a lot to achieve results of a higher quality at a much higher efficiency for our clients. So basically, we are using AI software, not just because it's cool, but basically for three reasons, really. First of all, the AI software boosts the defensibility of investigations. What I mean by that is we have to establish trust with the court, trust with investigating agencies, trust with the client that our investigation has really seen all the information required and has taken into account all the information available. It increases the quality of the investigation. Secondly, it increases the consistency and the accuracy, and it loses the element of human error that to a certain extent. And of course, and we can talk about that later probably during the questions, AI boosts the efficiency of the client services. For smaller investigations, we are able to provide first results to our clients very quickly. And sometimes this is all it is required to have a very quick review of the data available. So in investigations, my point would be that the AI software are really market standard. It does not take a lot of fantasy that clients, courts, investigating agencies will soon require, actually, that an investigation is based on using AI tools. And remember, investigations are fundamentally about establishing what happened and why. And we have now very powerful tools at our hands to deliver high-quality investigations to clients. Zaibaa.
We have been to several conferences where lawyers or legal tech practitioners have always raised the question, what happens when AI misses some important bit of information? Who is liable then? And to that, I think vendors have heard this question many times before, and they will refer back to studies about how junior lawyers are more likely to make mistakes than their algorithms are. But I think the point that we would like to drive home now is that AI, or any tech for that matter, is simply an enabler. It is the human, the lawyer, that drives the process, that is at the core of the process. We love the term collective intelligence. It is made up, it was coined by MIT professors, and basically it speaks about how machine intelligence complements human intelligence. So the lawyer very much drives the process. Just to take that a little bit further, our clients, when you're acting as a lawyer, our clients expect us to be competent. They expect that we use the best tools available at our disposal to give them the highest quality legal advice. And in such a situation where tools like Peter mentioned, these e-discovery tools are becoming more and more standard practice, it is a far greater liability not to use these tools than to use them. I mean, it is not unheard of surgeons being sued for malpractice because they've used an old method of surgery. Why should it be any different for lawyers? With that, thank you very much, and we would love to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Zaibaa. I think you have touched many different interesting points in your presentation. I would like to ask you a simple question that I think can be interesting for almost everybody. Zaibaa, you said that in some way it's the only way to do it start to use AI. You cannot wait too much because market expect that everybody use the latest available instruments, and so we need to start to use AI. But I mean, how many training do you think it's necessary for someone that never used it before to start to using AI?
No training. I mean, we have within our team, we use tools that we, like I mentioned in the presentation, lawyers don't need to know the technology. They are not the ones building the algorithms. What they need to know is the law. They are experts on the law, and they teach the system to understand, recognize clauses, to recognize documents, to recognize patterns. And I think that's the experience they need. And this is not a tech experience. This is experience that they see in law school, that they're doing in their practice. So short answer to your question, no tech training, just the legal training that they're doing anyway.
Great. This is great news for everybody. And so probably many of your colleagues will start to use AI after this call. And Peter, you said that with AI, a lawyer has new opportunities to, analyze more documents than before, and in some way also to choose a new approach that wasn't feasible before. But in the end, do you think that AI will improve or reduce the work of a lawyer? I mean, when you have a new instrument, many times it happens that you need to do also new things that you didn't do before. And so in some way, we can also expect that the work will be increased or not.
It will mainly improve. that is the important thing for our client. Yeah. So no, I mean it will improve in terms of quality and in terms of efficiency. That's at least what I can tell you from an investigation point of view. I mean, number one is it'll increase the efficiency. The time and cost savings here are incredible. That's why as you in your kind introduction, I contrasted 22, where we are currently now, and with just 11 years ago, yeah, and where lots of people would have to do the document review, and so we have an incredible time and cost savings through just utilizing these new technologies. And so we've just been finishing an internal investigation with 60 gigabytes of data. It was feasible basically to find the needle in the haystack within 48 hours, which is just an incredible cost saving for the client. Of course, there are more complex investigations where you would have to train the tool, you would have to train the algorithm. But nevertheless, the increase in efficiency is just incredible. The increase in the quality of the investigation is also incredible. The increase in consistency, in the accuracy of the data provided to clients as a result is just incredible. And of course, we are not in a legal bubble here alone. There are clients out there. The clients increase, of course, their level of expectation. Like a client who has seen us using these tools, they are expecting us for the next investigation to reuse similar tools because they are not going to go back to 2011. I'm telling you, they are going to expect that we are using the tools and we're not employing another 10, 15 lawyers to go through their documents again. So for clients, this is incredibly good news, basically.
Yeah. But do you think that a lawyer should use a new instrument on the same data, on the same documents that will have used anyway, or I mean, do you need to found new data to leverage this new instrument, new documents that maybe were not necessary before?
Well, that's not the case for investigations. Yeah. So in my use case, in my little use case, and Zaibaa might want to pitch in because she has a broader view. But in investigations, the data we are looking at is just perfect to leverage AI for, really, as the perfect use case, because you have these enormous amounts of data these days to look at, and without any software support and assistance on this task, it will be very difficult to do this efficiently and quickly, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Absolutely. Peter, just to add on that, I completely agree. In cases like compliance and litigation, where you already have the data, you know what you need to find. In a review situation, it's the perfect situation to use AI tools. But when you're looking at more training exercises, trying to teach it new concepts, I think that's where the question of data becomes very, very important. Many people who work with data would have heard garbage in, garbage out. So I think the quality of training you put, the quality of data that goes into a system directly influences what you get out of the system. So when you're looking at a larger project, or you're trying to implement AI in your daily work, I think questions around data are sometimes more important than around the tech itself. I think it is a big part of the planning process that you have to look at how data is stored, how data is governed, how clean is the data, before you can move to the next step to leverage it and gain insights from it.
Okay, interesting. And we have also one question from the public, and Christoph asked if you need the big data to use AI, or you can only just use a little data. But I think that Peter before said that we can use just the data that we have. Do you agree, Zaibaa?
Yes, again, this is in a review and investigation situation. Yes, in like I said, when we are trying to train it, we see that we are trying to train it to understand certain concepts. That's where the question of quantity of data comes in. And I think we are running tests on several data sets, some smaller, some larger, and what we are seeing is that it depends very much on the nature of the project and the kind of documents you're trying to review. So if you're looking at invoices, which are always in the same structure, in the same format, so always the date is on the top right corner, then you don't need big data. You don't need big volumes. If there's so much consistency in your data set, you can do it in a relatively small training exercise in a small amount of data. On the other hand, if you're trying to teach it complex sort of concepts across a large data set, you're trying to give it a more sophisticated understanding, let's say, of a legal clause, then you definitely need larger data sets. You can't do it with 20 invoices, for instance.
Okay. And okay, it seems that in many cases you don't need a specific training, and you don't need big data, so it's something easy to start to use. But to be very pragmatic, if a lawyer would like to use AI tomorrow morning, where he should start from? There is some advice that we can share with the public?
I think what we try to tell our lawyers is, don't think about the tech, focus on your problem. Look at the process, think about what part of your work is inefficient, and then the tech comes in. Then it's the enabler. So I think a good beginning to make being more efficient with or without tech, mostly with tech usually, is looking at your process, looking at your problem.
Okay, great advice, absolutely. And we spoke about productivity and the improvement of the final quality of the work. Do you think there are any other aspect of the profession that will be impacted by AI?
Absolutely. I think the business of law in general AI can have a big role to play. This is the question of legal analytics. I think you can get data from billing and revenue, gain insights into this data, and deploy strategies then to boost revenue. Also, in terms of there will be situations where AI is then able to help you understand how your contracts, how they and conduct benchmarking exercises on how they are against market standards. Also, in terms of quality, knowledge management, I think AI plays a very, very important role. And this is just the beginning. The tech will keep improving, and the use cases will keep coming.
Great. So we have some question from the public. Now we will share it. So we will try to answer them. And in general, it's allowed to maintain data from the client to use it to train instrument on another client, or you think that it's better to limit the using of the data from one client to his specific case? I think that this question is mainly related to supervised machine learning instruments. Do you have the chance to train some algorithm on one client data and after use it on another client?
No, we would never use client data. We have had instances where we've gone out, reached out to the client, asked for permission, redacted the information, and then used the data. Yes, but I think this is a very important question. Before you use client data, it's very important to make sure, and everyone knows the laws around this. They're very strict from not just regulations, but also from bar associations. So I think this is something that we tread very, very cautiously on. And we don't do it as practice, but we have done it in certain cases where we've reached out and the client has accepted, but completely redacted.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And I would like to know something more about the impact of the change. When Peter, you said that maybe today you can do in few minutes something that a few years ago you do in, I don't know, some days. So how can you manage this change inside the company when something that was very time consuming became instantly very, very quick to be done? How does it impact the organization of the company?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, first of all, we are welcoming on those AI projects new team members, Zaibaa and her team, of course, who are working hand in hand here with our investigation practice, for example. I think that is for the lawyers to accept, and lawyers are terrible with that. But lawyers have to accept that they are not omnipotent here, and they don't know everything. And so I think it is very important for lawyers to know where to stop. Yeah, as Zaibaa said, we are not the ones best placed to deal with algorithms. Yeah, but we have to understand the software. We have to understand the features of the software to an extent that we have to know what tools we have in our toolbox, right? So that is probably here the delimitation line between the lawyers and our innovation teams. Yeah? And I would plead in favor of keeping those two worlds separate. Yeah, of course, if you have a young lawyer who has always done some coding, that's brilliant. But that's definitely not for all of the profession. We can say that this is where the profession is heading for. Yeah.
Okay. And okay, you said, Zaibaa, before that okay, a lawyer don't need any specific training to start to use an AI instrument, and I really appreciate that. But do you think that there is some competence that for future lawyer is important to learn nowadays?
Yeah, I think lawyers have to look at their work be more process driven. I think the minute they are able to kind of see that their work is bigger than just law, and they are really in a data driven business, I think they will be able to leverage any sort of technology that comes their way in the future. And I think it's this change of thinking. It's realizing that you have to move with technology. Technology still has a very important role to play in the legal practice, and that kind of change in mindset, I think, is the absolute base to begin with.
Cool. Okay, I will check if we have answered to the question from the public. I think that maybe we have time for one other answer. Oh yes, this one
I
is
like
very
that one.
interesting.
I like that one.
Yes, because as I said before, if a specific task require very less time than before, I mean, we can understand the client that try to negotiate price down. So do you happen to you?
No, never, of course. No, of not for the first investigation, but for the second, of course. That's what I mentioned. I mean, of course, clients expect you to excel using those AI tools in the next investigation coming up. And of course, we are dealing with larger clients who have in-house counsel, who very much follow the trends and are very much aware of what is out there. So there's, as I said, the expectation simply to use it. And I have not seen like price negotiations basically just on the use of AI. But of course, price-sensitive clients are, of course, best served with those tools because they are so time efficient. Yeah.
Yes, I think that we can expect an increasing market pressure to use this instrument.
No, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
As we became the normality for the client, that maybe we start to use something similar internally for their daily process. They will expect that everybody will do the same. And okay, maybe we have a question from some other user. Let's see.
Non-English documents I like as well, from Daniel Trier, because that's something we have dealt with a lot, of course, recently with Hebrew and Chinese documents. That's a challenge, Zaibaa, right?
Absolutely. I think this is one of the biggest limitations that we are seeing of using the absolute spectrum of what AI tools can offer, because in Europe especially, there are so many different languages, and as Peter mentioned, we're doing things in Mandarin and Hebrew, and what these tools are able to do is still help you to a large extent in terms of kind of the OCR these documents well. You can run keyword searches. Maybe when I spoke about this context and concept-based searches, or understanding clauses, classifying documents, we are not there yet. We haven't come across any tool that can effectively do this for us very well off the shelf in different languages. It's something now that different law firms across Europe are trying to train algorithms themselves, trying to do this training. But of course, I think with English documents, you see a far greater use and a far greater benefit of this technology than with others.
Yeah. I recently read that Meta released a new algorithm, I think 2 weeks ago, that should change also this aspect, because they claim to have reached a kind of parity quality on translation on different languages. But I think that we'll need to wait at least 1 year before to see the result in real product in the market. But I think that this kind of technology is growing very fast, and so also the limitation that we have today are destined to change very quickly.
Absolutely. We've also come across tools where they use excellent translation. So they're using AI for translating documents, and then using AI capabilities to, so first they translate from other documents to English, and then try and leverage. And of course, it's not perfect, but I think that will change. Like you said, Alessandro, it's a year's time, maybe things look different.
Mm-hmm. And in your experience, how frequently you need to change your instrument? Because I mean, we are speaking about a technology that has a fast pace of evolution. So you think that you need to, I don't know, update your instrument quickly or once per year? I don't know.
Yes, we run evaluation phases for all the tech that we use across the market. Like Peter said, clients expect us to be on top of new technology, and we want to as well. And I think like the technology moves quickly, but what we also see is vendors are moving very quickly to update their technology. So there is that benefit, but we run updates every couple of months actually.
Great. Yes, I know that many of the main AI provider used to update their technology very frequently. So once you have adopted one instrument, in reality you are adopting one provider, and you can follow his evolution, and so you can you can save cost of changing every 2 months, because are difficult to sustain. Thank you. This was a very interesting point of view. I think that we have answered to all the questions. Just let me check. Okay. So I don't know, Stefano, if you have any other question for us.
Discussion, and I think also from the public, we have received many interesting questions. Something I mean, we have discovered that artificial intelligence in the domain of law, okay, it's the present, not the future. This is something that maybe we need to retain, because when I'm talking to my colleagues sometimes, and like I'm talking about artificial intelligence, they are looking at me like, what are you talking about? And they say, okay, I'm too old. This is the future, okay? Let's think about the present. Actually, we have discovered today that it's not, or better, we have better understand today that it's not the future, it's the present. And a big law firm like your firm and Dentons, so as we said at the beginning, largest law firm in the world, okay, it's already using this tool, is already using this technology in many fields of law, and is helping lawyer in the day-to-day business. This is very important, and this is a message that I think we need to pass. This is the reason why we have also association like the Swiss LegalTech Association, which is trying to, I would say, educate lawyers, okay, that the law field is not only about law, okay, but it's also about technology. And they say that it's not only the future, but it's also the present. So I think that your presentation was very interesting. I would say was a great presentation, and I really would like to thank Zaibaa and Peter, and of course Alessandro also for being the moderator of the discussion. And thank you very much. If there are no other questions or no other, let's say, I see that probably there is something. We have one more question, maybe before finishing. So Alessandro, you can take it, maybe.
Yes. Aurelien asked if we think that a firm should have his innovation team or should outsource. Maybe Peter, you can give us your point of view.
Yeah, sure. Zaibaa is biased, so she should not be asked. No, I think that for law firms of a certain size, it'll become inevitable, to be honest with you, to invest in human resources here. And as we have basically both pointed out, it is a different domain. It is a different profession. This is not something a lawyer can do on a Sunday afternoon, just getting some basic knowledge on the technology available. That's not going to lead to the success that is sought after. So yes, if possible, invest in technology, invest in your innovation team, and that has been a main driver for technology, even at Dentons. Stefan has said, like many of our partners have the same reaction. Why should I use those tools? Have practiced law for I don't know how many years without it, and it worked rather well. For this, you need like an innovation team as serving as technology ambassadors in your firm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I think we are still on time, so thank you everybody for your participation. We will hope to see you to the next appointment on May 11, if I'm right. So
yes, correct, Alessandro. Yes.
Perfect.
So we will talk about blockchain. I say it again. This is part of a series of events. And thank you very much, of course, to you, so to Zaibaa, Peter, Alessandro, and thank you to all participants that they have subscribed for this event. And also thank you to all the people that have, let's say, follow the live streaming of this event through the Swiss LegalTech YouTube channel. So see you soon. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Take care.